On this edition of For the Record, Senate Majority Leader Jake Corman is in studio to talk the Corman-McCord lawsuit against the NCAA. For the Record starts right now.
Commonwealth's attorneys and I have concluded that the NCAA sanctions were overreaching and unlawful.
Someone's got developed a product that you and I as a consumer are going to want to buy.
The country needs a comprehensive energy plan.
Good morning and welcome to this edition of For the Record. Our guest this morning, Senate Majority Leader, Republican Senator Jake Corman from Center County. Senator, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're talking about your lawsuit along with Treasurer McCord against the NCAA, and one thing a lot of people noted, that you were able to get standing in your lawsuit. The Paternals were able to get standing in their lawsuit. The lawsuit that Governor Corbett brought almost 2 years ago, he wasn't able to get standing. A lot of people have said recently that was a half-hearted attempt. What would you say to those people?
Well, I don't think it was a half-hearted attempt. I just think it was a different type of case. He was in federal court. We were in state court. One of the things that allowed me to get standing was I was appropriations chairman at the time. And at the time as appropriations chairman, the lawsuit was about the $60 million and whether that money should be spent in Pennsylvania as Act 1 of 2013 called for, or should it be allowed to be taken out of the state by the NCAA. And so being appropriations chairman oversees the appropriations to Penn State University as a public university, I think that's what gave me standing.
The naysayers in any type of case with politicians will say they did this for a future election. There have been people that have come out in the national media that have been critics of Penn State all along that have said that. How would you respond?
Look, I've lived here all my life. I went to school at Penn State. This is a big part of my life. And this issue was a big part of, had an impact on all of us who live here and who love Penn State. And this wasn't about my election or re-election. This was about what was the right thing to do. What is due process? Does due process matter? My belief, Penn State was not afforded due process. And what bothered me the most about all this was the way the NCAA attacked our culture, because our tradition here at Penn State was far more than the football program. It's our community. Success with honor is a credo for our community, I really believe. And so for them to attack our culture, that's something that I think hit every member of this community. And so as the representative for this community in the state Senate, I thought it was my job, because I had standing, to step up and take this on.
The New York Times had a great story on you that was very positive. But even in that story, it started off that you have an autographed Wheaties box of Joe Paterno in your office.
Oh, yeah.
You have Beaver Stadium. You have a statue of the Nittany Lions Shrine. You just said Penn State's a big part of your life, a big part of a lot of people's lives. Those people say, well, you're tainted, so you don't know what right would have been in this case anyway.
Well, look, I mean, I make no bones about the fact that Penn State's a big part of my life. You go to my personal Facebook page, it's a picture of my family and I at Joe Paterno statue. So I don't hide from that. But as the representative in the Senate, it's my job to represent Penn State and to represent this community. And therefore, I think that what I saw happen to them was wrong. And the courts have now shown it was wrong. So whether I'm a Penn State fan or a non-Penn State fan, the courts proved out that we were right in our case. And so I would feel vindicated because of that.
Your press conference on the steps down in Harrisburg on January 16th, you said the NCAA surrendered. This was equivalent of a slam dunk. They said they compromised and that they got what they wanted.
Well, look, I mean, they have to spin it any way they possibly can, and I understand that and respect that. I mean, there was an agreement. We didn't go to court. But having said that, we got everything we could ever dreamed of and more. I mean, again, the case initially was about just keeping the $60 million into the state. Then we moved on to the consent decree and the validity of the consent decree. And I think that is what went to the heart of all of this, was the consent decree. The fact that it was repealed by agreement, that's a really important notion here. I mean, the wins are nice. Don't get me wrong. We all care about the wins, and that goes to some of the things we're, punitive punishment towards Penn State. But that wasn't the key part of this. The key part of this is what the NCAA did was wrong. They did not go through any sort of due process. They manipulated their process to achieve an outcome that they wanted to enhance their own reputation as opposed to treating a member of their organization in a fashion that it deserved. So the fact that it's repealed means it removes a precedent that this type of a consent decree cannot be used again. They can never go back and say, well, we did this in the Penn State case, we can do this to X university. No, they can't. They repealed it because they knew they were wrong. So they can sit here and say, well, we got what we wanted. If they really cared about getting the money to the kids sooner, they wouldn't have sued me to begin with in federal court. So they're the one that drugged this out for years, which we could have had this money going towards programs and helping children and helping communities educate themselves. But unfortunately, we had to litigate this. So you can spin it any way you want, but the fact that the consent decree was repealed, I think that's a total surrender, and I think that was a total victory of this community, for this community.
I'll get to a little bit more on the NCAA a little bit later, but I just want to go with the statement that the NCAA released and that Penn State agreed to sign, saying, we appreciate the NCAA's effort in taking an interest in this case, an act of good faith. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Well, that was an agreement between NCAA and Penn State. It was not an agreement between myself and the NCAA. They wanted to agree to that. That's I can't stop that. Look, as an organization, I certainly would understand why they have an interest in what went on here. And if they wanted to go through a normal due process, to send it to the Committee of Infractions, actually do an investigation to find out what happened, okay. Then we had to deliver the results, but they didn't. They didn't want to do any of that. They just wanted to come in and lay out a punishment without any type of investigation by using the free report, which was obviously has been tainted, obviously seen as a deficient product, an irresponsible product, to my point of view. So, what Penn State and the NCAA agreed to, that's their business. Our case was about the consent decree, the validity of the consent decree. They repealed it, and that's the big news here.
Judge Covey oversaw the case. She recently criticized the NCAA for dragging their feet and also saying if they were so concerned about the money, they could still follow through with their pledge to donate their $60 million, something they've said they haven't been willing to do so far.
I mean, perfect example right there. The NCAA said that they wanted this to be about the money. Again, they could have not sued us and let this money flow years ago. However, they did. They are not putting up money of their own to join this cause. If this was a cause that they wanted to take to a national forum, to have a national foundation, they should start one. They have the resources to do that. And if they wanted to, I would applaud them for doing it. They haven't chosen to do it. Look, this was about them trying to make their reputation as a hard-on committee of infractions of universities, to be hard on these folks and to lay out heavy punishments. As you saw from the emails, and we're going to release more of this information very soon, but as you saw from the emails and went back and forth, this was their chance to enhance their reputation because they had taken so many hits in the most recent future. So, it didn't work out for them. But there certainly, I haven't been able to find any sort of motivation that was there to help the kids. Their motivation was to enhance the reputation of the NCAA, which actually did the exact opposite, and I think has really tarnished their reputation.
We'll get to those emails in just a bit. You are watching For the Record with State Senator Jake Corman. Back with more right after this. Welcome back to For the Record. Senate Majority Leader, Republican Senator Jake Corman is in studio with us. And Senator, you just talked about the emails that your lawsuit uncovered and that in the future you're going to release some more of them. The emails show that the NCAA and at least free, in my opinion, by saying free, that includes Kenneth Frazier, since Kenneth Frazier oversaw that investigation from the trustees. Donald Remy said it was an independent case. People say they were working together. Doesn't matter because this is a child abuse issue. They should have been working together. How would you respond?
Clearly there was a lot of interaction, and whether the NCAA was trying to put itself in the middle of the free investigation or whether they were working collaboratively, I'm not sure. Penn State had said that they gave the free permission to work with the NCAA. I think clearly the NCAA was trying to steer the investigation in the direction that they wanted. I can't speak to the motivations of free, but if you just look at everything that they were pushing free to achieve by investigating what they believed was culture problems, what they believed was institutional control problems. My mind, free was supposed to investigate what happened. What was the facts of all the issues surrounding the Sandusky case, not looking for all sorts of other areas about institutional control. This wasn't an NCAA investigation. This was an investigation that Penn State hired this organization to find out, excuse me, what happened in the case around Jerry Sandusky. So the problem with the free report, if you read it, which I have, is if you read the summary first, which is what he based his press conference on, it's very provocative. It's got significant accusations in it. And, if you just read that, it's like, wow, these people, Penn State, did horrible things. If you actually read the report, the actual evidence gathering that he did, there's not really much there to back that up. There's a few things there that would have you call question in your mind and maybe needs more review, but certainly nothing to the level of what he produced in the executive summary, and that's why I call it an irresponsible report. So again, all I've ever asked for in all this is what are the facts of the case? What is, let's go through a due process. If we're going to extract punishment, whether it be in the law or whether it be under an athletic organization, let's have due process to find out the facts so we can make an informed decision. Let's not allow emotions to rule the day, which is a very emotional case. Granted, I mean, very emotional case. As a father of 3, the crimes that were committed were horrific. But let's find out the facts before we extract punishment and have due process. That's what this country is based upon. It's based upon due process. That we broke away from the European model where you put someone in jail, the government put someone in jail, and you forgot about them. You didn't ever let them face their accuser. You didn't afford them counsel. When we founded this country, our forefathers put in a sense of due process that's very important, and that was not afforded in this case.
It's important to note Frank Fina said that a lot of Freeh's findings would not have held up in court, and this is a country governed by laws, as the senator just said. The documents kind of revealed that Ed Ray, Mark Emmert, the NCAA had a cram down on Rodney Erickson. Penn Staters, on the other hand, will say Rodney Erickson, Karen Peets, John Surma, they were Chamberlains when this university needed a Churchill, and they just rolled over and died. What are your opinions on the leadership at Penn State in November of 2011 and pretty much that same power block of leaders that's still in place now?
Well, I can't speak to the board. I think Rodney Erickson was put in an impossible situation. If he's being told by the president of the NCAA that they're going to get the death penalty, and he's being told by his head coach at the time, Bill O'Brien, you got to keep us alive. You got to keep the program afloat. As long as it's afloat, we can survive. The NCAA was threatening him. I mean, it was manipulating the process. Now, if you play this out, if he said, no, I'm going to take you to court, I'm not sure how the program exists while we're in court, because who knows how long that would have taken. So he was really put in an impossible situation. So I think it's hard for me to criticize him. That's where folks like myself, who are maybe somewhat separated from Penn State, was able to come in and get the facts of this case. So it's easy to criticize. It was a horrible situation at a horrible time. And I think President Erickson was put in a really difficult spot. And I'm not, do I wish he would have said no and fought it? Sure. But it's easy for me to say when you're the one that's there and the NCAA saying you're getting the death penalty, multi-year death penalty. That's a pretty intimidating situation. See, I think we should focus less on Rodney Erickson and focus more on Mark Emmert, because Mark Emmert manipulated this process. Mark Emmert, this is a member of an organization. Penn State wasn't a defendant in a criminal case. Penn State is a member of the NCAA. I assume they pay some sort of dues to belong to this organization. Whether they do or they don't, they're a member. And to be treated like this by the head of the organization, by lying to President Erickson, by manipulating it, by saying, by putting out a threat of the death penalty, which was not on the table. All the facts show it was not even being seriously considered. But he did it for the purpose to achieve this consent decree, so he didn't have to go through a due process. So as much as we may be frustrated with the board or Penn State, the real villain here to go after, in which we are going to very soon, is Mark Emmert. That is the person that really we should focus on.
If he was a member of the Senate, and just say he was in a leadership position in the Senate, how would you go about disposing of him, and do you think his days are numbered at the NCAA?
Well, I can't speak to that because I'm not on the board there. But what we are going to do is we're going to provide all the board members of the NCAA all of the depositions, all of the testimony, all of the depositions that all discovery, that we took, all the information. And we're going to give that not only to the press, but we're also going to give it to the board members in a thumb drive. We'll give it right to them and say, this is who's heading up your organization. Are you comfortable with this? Because if they can do it to Penn State, they could do it to somebody else. And if you're going to use these type of tactics, I wouldn't want that being the person heading up my organization or my caucus in the Senate. So I'd be asking real questions if this person was the head of the Senate. I hope the members of the NCAA board ask real questions. How they got it. I mean, they took a bath on this. I mean, their reputation, instead of enhancing it as they tried to do by looking tough, they ended up harming their reputation to the point where I'm not sure why these school presidents even have an NCAA. I mean, if now you have these power conferences, the only thing the NCAA brings to the table is the basketball tournament, which you could create in about 30 seconds with these power conferences. So I don't know if the whole organization's days are numbered. But clearly, if I was a board member of the NCAA or any university president of Pittsburgh, president of any university around the country, I would be really concerned that this type of individual is heading up my organization.
Senate Majority Leader Jake Corman is on For the Record. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to For the Record. We are talking the Corman-McCord lawsuit against the NCAA. And Senator, your lawsuit kind of blew the top off the volcano with the trove of documents that were uncovered. In your opinion, there's always people with freedom of information requests to Penn State about free emails, free interviews, and things like that. Should all of those become public in a case like this?
I think so. I think, look, the more information that comes out, the better we understand. We would not have known any of this stuff about the way the NCAA operated in this process if it wasn't for this lawsuit. And, you know, so we through our own legal process, we got a lot of, we didn't get all of it. You know, we got a lot of information. So I think there's still more out there, and I like to see it all. I mean, it's important for us to review. It's important for us to understand how people arrive at decisions that they do. If you did it in an upstanding way that's respectful of the law and the process, then why are you concerned about the information getting out? So I don't think it harms anything. So the more information, that's why we've really tried in state government strengthen the right to know laws as far as getting information out. And I think the more that comes out about this, the more we learn. The more we're educated on it, and then we can make decisions that are better informed.
Because a lot of people thought you were best positioned to get all the documents that you wanted, and you said you didn't get everything you want, a lot of people were kind of disappointed that a settlement was reached. What would you say to those people that were disappointed in that?
Well, there was really nothing left to achieve. You know, the case was about the validity of the consent decree. When the consent decree is repealed, there's really nothing left to achieve. Now, we got all of the testimony, and as I said, we're going to go public with that and get it out to the general public for them to review. You know, there were some retracted documents that we maybe could still have gotten if we'd have kept going down this road, but you know, I'm not sure the court would appreciate us wasting their time if the case is about the consent decree and they repealed the consent decree. So there was nothing left for us to achieve. We thought, as I said, we thought we completed complete victory, achieved complete victory, and so that was why it was time to agree to finish the case.
Senator Utachak's bill. A lot of people that are fighting the release of emails out of Penn State, at least, were on the Board of Trustees in November of 2011. His bill calls for a reorganization of the board. Do you support that bill, and what is its chances when it comes up in this?
Well, I co-sponsored the bill last year, mostly as a way to sort of send a message to Penn State that, you know, this is something that people are considering, people are interested in, and maybe you need to take an internal review of your own board. If I had my druthers, I would prefer not to do legislatively, because if you're going to go to Penn State, then it really applies to all the schools. It would apply to Pittsburgh, it would apply to Temple, it would apply to Lincoln. I mean, if we would do it for any reason, I don't think you'd do it because of the current players, that you're frustrated with the current players on the board. You do it because it's good government and governance process for a university. And so if you're going to change the structure for governance, well, then that should apply across the board. I'm not sure 253 legislators ought to be determining what the proper governance is for a board of trustees at any of these universities. Having said that, if it continues to have problems, we should continue to look at it. But I would like to see them reform themselves and seriously take some serious looks at it. I'm not really supportive of what they've done so far as their board governance, but you know, we'll let that play out and see where it goes. But you know, Senator Utachak's going to introduce the bill. It'll go to state government committee, and they may hold a hearing. They held one in the past. I don't know that it has much support in the House. The House has said to this point in time they're not really interested in the bill. So, but you know, it's up to the supporters of it to continue to drum up support, drum up notoriety for it, and see if they can get it passed.
Those like Keith Masters say, well, we don't want Harrisburg telling us how to run our university. Understandable, but at the same time, your bill had a plan A. They went with plan F that was completely in the opposite and actually made a bigger board and took the advice of somebody who self-admittedly said, well, I'm not good with educational boards. That's not my expertise.
Well, look, it's Pennsylvania State University. It's not our university. It's not his university. It's Pennsylvania State University. It's the citizens of Pennsylvania. It's our flagship university. Granted, the Commonwealth only puts in a small percentage of the funds. But still, it's the flagship university of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so we all have an interest in that, whether you're on the board, whether you're alumni, whether you're just a citizen of the Commonwealth that has no ties to Penn State. You all have an interest on how Penn State operates. So I think as representatives of the citizens, it's our job to provide oversight to make sure that these universities, not just Penn State, but all of them, are operating in a fashion that's in the best interest of the Commonwealth and best interest of its citizens. So, we'll continue to provide that role of oversight, continue to engage with the leadership of the board and others, and see where we can provide positive impact.
How much have the alumni elected trustees such as Al Lord and Anthony Labrana, how much have they reached out to you, and what's your relationship with them?
I've had a lot of conversations with all the members of the board, both the alumni trustees and others as well, and sort of trying to play referee in some ways. I think it's important that they all sort of take a step back and say, this is Penn State University. We all love Penn State. We're all here for a reason. And, we have members of the legislature who just sort of introduce bills all the time, and they never compromise, and they never get anything done. And so even though they may be pure in their thought, if you're not getting anything accomplished, then what good are you? And so I think it's important to understand that you do have two sides of an issue. Where can we move to the middle? Where can we compromise so that I may not be getting everything that I want, but maybe I'm getting the ball moving in my direction now? And that's the art of compromise in the state legislature as well. I mean, we can have a Democrat governor. We have Republican houses majority. But, any bill that we pass, he has to sign. So I can just send him a lot of bills that I like that he doesn't like and have him veto them all, and then what have I accomplished? So at some point we have to compromise and work with the other side, and I would encourage the board on both sides to try to find common ground and best interest and move the university forward.
How close is this university right now with their leadership from at some point going off the rails? Because the trustee meetings, they're very heated and between the people that are in there.
Well, look, I think Penn State as a whole is doing very well. Their applications are very high. Their donations are very high. Their accomplishments are good. I mean, a lot of things are going on. It's very positive. There's a lot of attention towards this matter, and rightfully so. It was a very emotional moment for the university that really cut to the core of who we are in this community and at Penn State University. And so I certainly understand their concerns. But I think all in all, Penn State's doing really well. And we just need to figure out ways to now maybe this case is over, bring everyone back together.
Senator, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And thank you at home for watching this edition at For the Record. We here at WHBL will try to keep you up to date on all the developments around Penn State and topics that matter in your life. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.